Holding George's hand, Jean stood there and eavesdropped on the women's conversation. She was not concerned by what the ladies said. George looked up to his mother and asked, "Are they talking about us?" Jean shrugged. She had learned to tolerate trivial matters but be strong when it came to taking revenge. She used to care about what people said about her, but she got smarter now. "Come on, let's go get you some desserts," Jean said. George had a look at the chatty women. He had a youthful look of a 6-year-old, but there was a hint of gloom in his eyes that did not match his age. They walked to the table with the desserts. Jean carefully picked her sweets. She had her eyes on a cream cheesecake, and when she extended her hands to take it, a man came in and snatched the cake before her. She looked at the man and the man looked at her with a smile. "Ms. Lawrence." Jean smiled politely at the man. "My master is allergic to chocolate, so," Teddy sounded courteous. Jean nodded and was not concerned about the cake she lost. She held George's hand and went over to the other side. She chose all the cakes with cream on them and gave them to George. "Don't choke yourself. You're not eating?" the boy asked. "I'm not hungry." George was still growing and he skipped dinner because they had to attend this charity ball. Therefore, Jean picked all the cakes with cream for him. George munched on the creamy cakes quietly as Jean accompanied him. Then, Thaddeus came to her with a vexed look. "You came and you didn't come to me. My son is hungry." Thaddeus looked askance at George. "Why did you bring him here? Know your place. Your son shouldn't be here to embarrass me. If you think I'm embarrassing you, you can just ignore me for the entire night, Mr. Locke." "Jean, don't challenge my patience. Be grateful that I agreed to marry you, so stop trying to act innocent in front of me." Thaddeus reacted to her words bitterly. "Really?" Jean said softly, but there was a hint of gloom in between the lines. "Come find me when you're done. And keep your arrogance away. Someone like you doesn't have the right to be arrogant." Thaddeus then left angrily. Jean barely reacted to it. George continued munching his cakes. Teddy, on the other hand, felt a little awkward because he saw the whole incident and heard things that he should not. It was then he accidentally locked eyes with Jean. Panicked, he quickly explained, "My master hasn't had dinner. I'm here for more cakes." Jean simply nodded. She looked at George. "Had enough?" "Yeah, I want to go to the washroom." "I'll go with you." Jean held George's hand and headed to the washroom. Teddy watched as Jean walked away. As far as he remembered, Jean was never this calm or cold. Something must have happened that changed her from the inside. He picked several pastries and returned to Fourth Master Swan. On the way back, he just realized his master usually did not consume so much sweets. "God damn." Jean held George's hand as they walked across the hall. The guests in the venue mostly knew Jean, but none talked to her, as if talking to her would lower their status. Despite her status, her beauty still caught a lot of attention. The two of them walked to the garden, where the bathroom was. George went into the men's room and Jean waited for him outside. A while later, a few girls came out from the ladies' room. "Did you see Fourth Master Swan?" "I did. I can't describe his handsomeness with words anymore. I've never thought a man could be as handsome as him. If I didn't see him with my own eyes, I won't even believe it." They were in awe of Fourth Master Swan's handsome look. One of them lowered her voice and said, "But have you heard about his physical condition? He's so handsome but there are no women around him." "Really? Or did he hide his girl from the public?" "I heard it from Eden, Fourth Master Swan's nephew. He said his uncle doesn't have anyone." "What a pity. All that handsomeness is going to waste." "God is fair. He got everything but lacked the ability to become a real man. I wonder if it was Ed or something went wrong during his puberty. If it's Ed, then he can still get it treated, but if it's something wrong with his growth, then it's a pity. Can you imagine a handsome man having the junk of a kid?" Jean did not want to be part of the gossip, but for whatever reason, she came out from the corner. Maybe it was the girl's annoying tone that vexed her. "Fourth Master Swan's junk is just fine. There's nothing wrong with it," she said. The girls looked at her in confusion. "I think it's around here, this big." Jean started to sign with her hands. The girls got even more confused. One of the girls looked at her in disbelief and asked, "How did you know?" Jean paused for a moment and answered, "Wild guess." "Wild guess. I supposed a handsome man like him should be at least, workable." Jean tried to make her words sound less ridiculous. The girls looked at her in disdain. However, before they could say a word, a voice came from the dark. "Is that so?" A cold voice of a man sounded and startled everyone. When the girls turned to the voice, they saw the handsome Fourth Master Swan. The girls were astonished and ran away in shock. Jean watched the girls run. She wanted to follow but George was still in the men's room. She was forced to stay back and locked eyes with Fourth Master Swan. Things started to get awkward. Fourth Master Swan suddenly said, "Ms. Lawrence, do you remember it?" There was no emotion on his face when he asked the question, but due to his prestigious status, his presence alone was pressuring and revered. Jean adjusted her breath and forced a smile on her face. "What do I remember? As far as I recall, Fourth Master Swan and I aren't even acquaintances. I just don't want you to be misunderstood by those girls." Fourth Master Swan did not answer. He simply stared at her. The air got quiet. Jean blinked nervously as he walked closer to her. She could even feel his breath, that it felt pressuring. "Do you think I'm handsome?" he asked. His tone sounded softer. "I thought that's a widely acknowledged fact," Jean answered. Fourth Master Swan laughed. The way he laughed could capture the hearts of all the girls in the world, and yet it struck fear in Jean. She then heard his charming voice say, "No, only you acknowledge that fact.